All right, we're heading up to the Glamis Sand Dunes to film an epic.
Hey!
We're gonna film an epic engagement photo shoot. We're gonna be driving a couple hours. It's gonna be awesome. We got dune buggies,
smoke bombs,
sand
dunes. I've been wanting to get out of the sand dunes since I moved here.
Yeah, it's gonna be so awesome that we're also gonna document the whole shoot. We got video, we got photo. Let's see what we come up with.
Yeah, good, bad, and the ugly. Was this the last shoot before the deal? How many shoots did you have before coronavirus locked us down?
I'd say, yeah, this was my last shoot. And it was kind of fitting because it was in the desert. It's kind of apocalyptic in nature.
Billy and I drove 2.5 hours to this location, so this is a pretty special shoot for us. The only time I get to hang out with Billy is when we're shooting together.
I was introduced to this couple, let's say about 6 months ago. I'm going to be photographing their wedding, which is on a very special date, 10/10/2020.
And hopefully a safe wedding date.
The next step was to shoot their engagement shoot, and we were throwing some location ideas. Gil, the fiance, sent me an email. He said, hey, listen, would you consider coming out to the desert in Glamis? We have some dune buggies, and we think it would be kind of cool because that's what we love doing together when we have spare time.
Did he call them dune buggies?
I think he did at first. We found out later on the shoot that they're also called sand cars, right?
Yeah, when I think of dune buggy, I think of like an old VW Beetle that like people retrofit. Basically, this thing was the Batmobile for the desert. Okay, so here's the setup. So Amanda and Gil do this every weekend. This is like their world. Billy and I didn't know square one about any of this. We thought we were gonna drive up to the sand dunes, park, walk a short way, start shooting this engagement session on the top of a hill with a bunch of sand dunes in the back. When we came up, they were super welcoming. They're like, yeah, this is our RV. We're just getting the car ready.
Billy, what are we doing? You know what you're doing up there?
No clue. Gil told us that one of his buddies, Dennis, was gonna drive us out to the location, which is like about 10 minutes away. And we thought, you know, this was gonna be a leisurely drive. And as we turned a corner, and Dennis, who was driving us, who also happens to be a championship race car driver,
he just takes off. Like literally the slowest we went was just getting out of the RV lot. And then the second we had any open space in front of us, he just gunned it. It feels like your face is melting back against your skull.
And we're driving 100 miles an hour, and what we see in front of us is just bumps of sand. So imagine going that fast.
Like 3 foot tall waves of sand. So I'm looking at it thinking, we're gonna flip.
I was screaming, that's enough, okay, that's enough.
No, he wasn't screaming. Billy was nice because he's Canadian, so he was polite even in his worst moment.
I had my camera in my lap, and tied to a belt loop is my 70-200. I was worried that the camera equipment was gonna fly out of the car, or it was gonna bump, or it was gonna break.
Said anything that you brought was getting sandblasted.
It was probably the closest I've ever felt to death in my whole life.
Yeah, any of you who've ever done an engagement shoot, you know it carries very little risk to your life. And so we're looking at the dunes as we're ripping by because we know we're gonna eventually go up there. And he doesn't warn us at all. He just goes. He just turns the car dead left after going 100 miles an hour this way. He just pulls it this way and starts going straight up and down, right? We're looking at the clouds as we're going up this thing. And I think, okay, it's gonna be over because we're gonna get to the top, right? Well, no. He's just doing that to mess with us. He gets halfway up and turns the damn thing and drives sideways on the hill. So we're turned literally like this going over the thing.
Yeah, and I think he had to go full speed sideways, otherwise it would have flipped. It was crazy. And then
it was awesome.
Then they expect us to, you know, gather our composure, do a photo shoot after that. We were frazzled.
Yeah.
We did plan to shoot an hour and a half before sunset to give us a little bit more breathing room. But what ended up happening, things started running a little bit late. There was some problems with the car. And we got to our location with about 40 minutes left till sunset. So we were we were scrambling to get the shots that we wanted to get.
I think one of the big differences between people who are new at it and people who are experienced is the ability to adapt to non-ideal situations. So
Exactly, yeah.
timelines get messed up. So by the time we got to the first location, it was sweet. The light was absolutely perfect. It was about 3/4 of the way up to the top of the sand dunes. They get out, we get a couple of shots in this great spot, but then the light changes. Billy's like, we got to go to the top. Let's just go straight up there right away.
Instead of driving up to the top, which wasn't that far away, but it was a steep incline. So we're like, okay, let's get you guys walking ahead of us. Then we got, those awesome shots where they had fresh footprints in the sand and we had the sun dipping over the sand dunes. They were good sports and we made it to the top, and that spot was just completely epic. And I'm like, you know what? We got to get the car up there because they wanted the car in the shoot too.
Dennis would get in the car, drive it to where we wanted, and then I'd be like, okay, Dennis, thanks so much. Now can you get out of the way because you're not part of the shoot? So huge shout out to Dennis for that.
And Dennis was rewarded because we got some nice shots of him next to his dune buggy. And she wore a red dress, which was just perfect for the dunes.
When we photograph people, we don't really try to dictate what they wear. We want them to wear stuff that they're comfortable in so we can get natural looking shots where they're being themselves. And the red dress really popped against all that kind of like similar tones of the sand.
So literally 10 minutes into the shoot, and we have a ton of ideas. Gil turns to me and Dustin, he says, okay, are we done?
Okay,
Typical
that
guy.
sounds good. Wrap it up. And we're like, dude, we got like 7 photos.
So that's always the balance.
How many photos would you say you typically take in an engagement session?
There's usually around 1,000 photos that end up on my memory card in a typical 1 hour
1,000
photo
photos,
shoot.
and that doesn't happen in 10 minutes. And honestly, I can understand that too. I don't love being photographed. The only person who gets to photograph me is Billy. Most of the time I have my clothes on for that. But every shoot that we go into, diversity is the main thing. So that when they go home, they're not like blown away by just the one perfect shot that took us 2 hours to get. They're blown away by like how many different looks and how much variety we got in such a short period of time. So we're used to working extremely fast. We were almost underestimated a little bit somehow.
When you're doing the photo shoot, they have no idea really what it's gonna look like. And then when they see the photos after, they're like, oh, okay, I see what you were doing here.
Yeah, the surprise factor. We enjoy being able to show people sides of themselves that they didn't even know were that good.
Yeah.
One of the things that Gil was definitely interested in was getting the canal with the water kind of winding through. It has a really cool way of lighting up at sunset and kind of changing colors.
Because of the balance of the sun off the sand, the quality of light was unreal. It was unlike anything we've ever photographed before.
We didn't originally know, but the flags on Gil's car actually lit up, and there's all kinds of light effects on the vehicle. So as soon as we learned that, we're like, you need to turn those on and we can shoot a little bit further into dusk. And Billy brought a setup for that for photos.
I should pull that out actually. I threw in this studio light. It's made by the company Neewer, as a lot of you photographers know. I'm surprised it's still functioning, awesome. Considering how many bumps we went over. And honeycomb grid for it to be super directional, so for it to be a little bit more dramatic.
Once Billy was done with his photos, I was able to use a modeling lamp on his light to fill in for my video stuff. Obviously, we don't want a bunch of flashes popping off in the video, but I do need some fill because I don't have all that dynamic range with video. So it was really nice to have a light that could do kind of dual duty, especially out there on location where we had limited resources because we couldn't bring it all.
All right, so this was the first location that we stopped at. I wanted them at the top so I can see the rest of the dunes behind them. But before I was able to see those dunes, I kind of looked back over my shoulder and I saw this amazing symmetry. So I pulled out the 70 to 200 because I saw the clouds back there too, and I wanted to make those clouds pop behind them. And those shots with the rule of thirds and the negative space just turned out amazing. It was one of my favorite shots. One of the best things about working with the team is feeding off ideas of the people you're working with. And Dustin had this awesome idea for this pose, and the light was just working perfect there. I was basically shooting over Dustin's shoulder for this one, but
we reversed roles there. Normally video's shooting over the photographer's side, so that particular pose is one of my favorite ones because it can be kind of awkward if you're always just facing your fiance and it's like, okay, face each other, hug, kiss, you know, you start getting in a rhythm where you feel like it's like the same thing. So especially when we have epic vistas like this, it was easy. And then she just happened to turn around and look into the camera. It's kind of a really powerful look. It wasn't difficult to work with Amanda. There weren't any really difficult angles.
There weren't any bad angles.
Gil was a good sport. He knew his role, stand there, be strong, look good, give her something to pose off of. So
knowing that this was going to be, you know, an epic shoot, we thought, you know what, why not bring out some smoke bombs there too?
Billy had them as kind of a surprise, and I was stoked. They don't last very long, so you kind of got to make your move quick and get your angle right from the start. But that was also a challenge because we didn't have much time. The sun was going down, and without the sun, you're not going to see all that smoke.
Another challenge was with the slightest bit of breeze, the smoke takes off in one direction. It's not like some of those videos you see where, you know, there's a high concentration of smoke in one area. And so as soon as we saw that after the smoke bomb, we started working with it. But this was one of my favorite shots here with the dune buggy way in the background and them, you know, walking towards it.
It looks like they're, you know, popping these smoke bombs to be rescued out there in the middle of nowhere. And honestly, that's kind of how we all feel right now. So, side note, I popped one of these smoke bombs in the backyard the other day. No one came to rescue me, so don't expect that.
Well, the smoke bombs we used were from Peacock Smoke. We ordered a pack of 6. They came in a bunch of different colors, and they didn't disappoint. They're not too hard to use. You just pull the ring out, you put it on the ground. You have to kind of be careful not to get too close to it because the smoke can leave like a residue on your clothes. And they weren't too expensive. I think we got the 6-pack for like $60 or so.
Thank God for the Mavic 2. It was so easy to just pop that thing in the sky. So I flew the drone literally off the top of Dennis's car. And the first thing I did when I got out of the car was not move the drone. It was grab my camera and start shooting because I knew I could just leave the drone up there. It has a 30-minute battery life, so I just left it up there filming as we shot.
Ideally, we had one more friend that was going to come along, Jim Sloan, but he couldn't make it, so we were limited. And that was good to have that extra camera angle up there for sure.
Jim would have been huge. He's not our friend anymore, and that's how we roll. I mean, you get one strike with us, and that was it.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I wish I could have been there for the shoot. It looked amazing. Please don't be mad at me.
Honestly, I'm super proud of the way everything turned out because we were able to manipulate a lot of different elements quickly in order to kind of put together some good compositions. Honestly, that's thankfully to Billy. Like, his whole style is keeping things moving, keeping people comfortable and like in their element, and then we adjust on the fly. When people are walking and looking at each other and thinking about, you know, themselves, it's much easier to keep a natural shot while we adjust than to say, hold on, we're gonna adjust, you guys just sit still and be bored, and then when we get to the spot, we'll tell you to smile. That's not, you know, his typical style, and that's why I love working with Billy.
Thank you, Dustin.
Honestly, after this shoot, I want to get back out in a sand dune. I don't know how much Billy wants to get back into the sand
Billy,
dune
what are we
again,
doing out here?
but-
What the hell did we get ourselves into, man?
So we're ready to get back out to the dunes just as soon as it's allowed.
Yeah, we miss shooting for sure. We miss working with our team and miss working with all these amazing people and couples and telling stories. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, if you want to see more stories, then, you know, subscribe to this channel and we'll be posting whenever possible.
All right, the shoot is over. Oh, probably one of the craziest shoots we've ever done in our lives.
Turns out you can't take a Honda Fit up a sand dune. We were misinformed.
We were honestly afraid for our lives.
In the best way. In the best way.
Yeah.
I mean, Billy, you know, he's got other underwear. It's not a big deal.
afraid to check my underwear.
Yeah,
Actually.
that's fine. We got 2 hours drive home. Windows still rolled down. We should be good.